So tell me about how you got how'd you begin as a comedian?
I was at university sort of studying drama and film and television, and I was kind of just a little bit disillusioned with the notion of becoming an actor, really, because it just seemed to me that you were kind of at the whim of, casting directors and the sort of ebb and flow of work, and I kind of wanted to do something that I was a little bit more in control of, and I'd always had an interest in stand-up comedy since I was very small, so I kind of went down that route anyway, and through being a stand-up, managed to get back into acting and being a little bit more autonomous by sort of writing my own material and generating my own work. So that's kind of how it happened.
Who are some of your favorite comedians?
Oh God, I've got loads of favorite. I'm a big fan of like Bill Hicks, I guess on that side of the pond, and people here like old acts like Morecambe and Wise, and current acts like Bill Bailey, and God, it's a hard question. It's like walking into a record shop and trying to remember what music you like.
Right. How was your first? Is he like stand-up comedy and stuff? How did your first comedy appearance go? Where was it at?
I was at university at the time, and I started off sort of doing kind of review shows at university, and then branched out into actually performing at the comedy clubs that were around Bristol in England at the time. And then I sort of went to London and met my agent, and she was booking a comedy club at that time, and she was just starting out as an agent, and she said, if you move to London, I'll take care of you, and that's what happened.
Right on. And then so when did you get into the acting part of it?
Well, I'd always been interested in acting. I kind of studied acting at university and stuff, but I guess at that point, sort of in the mid-90s, the TV companies in the UK were sort of mining the stand-up community for people to come up with new ideas, because there was a slight dearth of sort of sitcom and good comedy. So they were sort of like looking to the stand-up circuit for people to come up with dramatic ideas, and I kind of got approached to do something with a friend of mine called Jessica, who I'd worked with, and we came up with this show, Spaced.
Oh yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions, was about that.
Yeah, and I'd also worked on a couple of comedy shows before that as well. So it was kind of that sort of being in the right place at the right time kind of deal.
So what was Spaced about? I haven't seen it yet.
It was basically a sort of flat share sitcom, but it was done in a very unconventional fashion. It was filmed single camera, and it was there was no live audience. It was shot more like a film, really, and that's how I met Edgar, who directed Shaun of the Dead, because he directed something that I'd been in previously, and I'd really been impressed with the way he worked. And when it came to do Spaced, we sort of, Jessica and myself, both asked for Edgar to direct it, because we figured he could definitely get the kind of visual style we wanted up on the screen.
Right. Very cool. Is this how did you guys end up like co-writing that, you and Edgar? What was the writing process for you guys like writing Shaun of the Dead?
Well, we were working on Spaced, and Edgar and myself sort of like obviously became firm friends while we were making Spaced. We didn't know each other too well beforehand, and we both sort of realised we had a shared interest in kind of genre films and horror and what have you. And we'd shot a sequence in Spaced where my character Tim had been playing the game Resident Evil for 12 hours straight, and had started to hallucinate that he was in the game, and so we kind of shot a sort of zombie sequence, and had such fun doing it. We kind of got to the end of the day and thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could actually make a zombie movie? And I suppose that was where the germ of the idea started. And after the second season of Space finished, we started to think about the actual possibility of making the zombie movie. But then when we thought about how can we make it different, we don't just want to make a kind of run-of-the-mill zombie movie. George Romero had done that brilliantly already, and it didn't really need doing again. So we figured, let's try and put a spin on it, and that's how we came up with the idea of doing this sort of romantic zombie comedy.
Right on, that's awesome. Yeah, actually, and before we knew we were going to be able to get the interview with you to do the feature, we were doing a Shaun of the Dead versus Resident Evil 2, review for the thing. We've got my intern did a Photoshop image of you like with boxing gloves, boxing Mila Jovovich. It's really funny.
Oh, poor Mila.
You guys win. You win, of course. So.
Well, I'd hope so. I mean, I always think it's slightly vulgar to publicly dismiss other people's work, but I don't really like the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah. They're you know, I think they're corporate Hollywood. So.
They're a little bit sort of loud and you know, kind of it's not exactly like sledgehammers as opposed to paintbrushes.
Right. Good. Nice. So is this your first co-writing for a big screen theatrical film, or?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's definitely my first. I've done script polishes on things, and but yeah, this is the first big sort of screenplay.
What's that?
Written, yeah. This is the first big screenplay that I've written. Yeah.
Right. Okay. You looking forward to a whole bunch more, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the most fun about? Do you have a particular part of this movie or a particular part of the shoot that you did that you think was the most fun, most entertaining to do? Or?
I think it's difficult because, I mean, the whole thing was an enormous amount of fun overall. I mean, I look back on it now. It was you know, we were making a zombie movie, and it was great. But the actual process wasn't easy, you know, because once we got into production, we were dealing with. You know, we had a good budget for a low budget film. It was £4 million, so it was pretty good for what we were trying to do. But you know, we were still up against it. It was still very ambitious, and so in actual fact, it was very hard. And there were some pretty difficult days. You know, we were always up against time, and money was always against us, and you know, it was actually quite arduous. But having said that, you know, I really loved shooting the stuff. As soon as we got into the big crowd scenes with the zombies, that was really good fun. And a lot of the special effects. I love shooting the scene in the back garden with Nick. I suppose that was one of my favourite my favourite times. But it was, you know.
That actually goes to one of my questions. What record or CD in your collection right now do you have that you wouldn't throw at a zombie?
Oh, I think I've narrowed it down now. Now I just throw my iPod at the zombie, man. Then that would be absolutely everything I own. I just couldn't do that. I think I don't know. I guess if you're not a vinyl purist, you're pretty much quids in now because you know, nobody plays vinyl anymore unless you're a DJ.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think CDs are that effective.
Well, I guess I was getting to who's your favorite band or who you think who you like out there. We're also we're a music arts and clubs magazine, so we have a whole music section as well. So
oh, okay.
There'll be a lot of music readers for the interview.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big music listener. I've got quite a musical family, so I've you know, I always find it quite hard to answer those kind of questions because I have quite a large eclectic music taste. You know, my iPod's almost full now, and it's one of those 40 gig ones. So I think it would be difficult to distinguish. I generally kind of am on the side of good music, and I think deep down we all know what that is as grown-ups. You know,
right.
You know, worthy stuff that's actually got a bit of thought and art to it.
Right on. And you and Nick you were roommates at one point?
Yeah, we were roommates for about 6 years. We shared a flat and a couple of flats actually, and you know, lived very much like Shaun and Ed for a little while there. Right. I mean, I don't know which one was which, to be honest. It wasn't like I was Shaun and Nick was Ed. I think we both were probably both Ed actually. But yeah, that's certainly good. I mean, Nick's my best friend, and you know, that a lot of the chemistry. I'd be lying if I said that the chemistry that people were sort of talking about up on screen was entirely artificial. You know, it's all true. We're just good mates, you know.
Well, it's always good to work with people you're friends with. I think that definitely helped out the film a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite zombie film, other than, I would say, Dawn of the Dead, of course? But
I think I would say, other than Dawn of the Dead, because the original Dawn of the Dead is, without that, the best. I think I love it. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I'd probably say, I think you'd probably have to say what's the favourite one outside the Romero canon, because obviously once you tick off Dawn, then I'd say it was night and then it was day. So I suppose my favourite non-Romero zombie film would probably have to be, maybe there's a great Japanese one called World Zero.
World Zero?
Yeah, which is a great sort of schlocky zombie. You should check it out. It features this band called Guitar Wolf, and it's absolutely hilarious. But maybe Lucio Fulci's The Beyond.
What's that again?
The Beyond.
The Beyond.
By Lucio Fulci. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a bit of a classic.
Fantastic. Has the Romero camp said anything to you or had any contact with you about Shaun of the Dead? Or?
Oh yeah, we're in constant contact with George because he apparently proudly wears his Shaun of the Dead badge on the set of Land of the Dead every day at the moment, and he even got his. I think everybody on the set of Land of the Dead has got a badge or a hat. He really loves the movie. We sent him a copy as soon as we got it finished, and he we sent it over to Florida. Actually, he watched it in Florida. And we spent a very tense couple of hours waiting for him to give us a nod to call him, and we did, and he absolutely loved it, which is great because and there's no reason why I shouldn't, because it is very it's very reverential, it's a love letter to him really, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be very flattered with it.
Right. Yeah,
so
it is fantastic.
We're so happy at that, and we've become very good friends with Greg Nicotero at K&B Effects, the guy that is doing the effects for Land of the Dead and who was in Day of the Dead, and and Ken Foree as well, who was in the original Dawn of the Dead, who was the lead actor. We've become friends with. So yeah, we've got very healthy links with the Romero camp, and we're absolutely stoked about it.
Fantastic. Have you seen the remake of Dawn of the Dead?
I have, yes. I saw it because it came out 2 weeks before Shaun of the Dead did.
Oh, okay.
Here in the UK, it came out because we were both under the Universal banner, and the Universal's only stipulation was that Dawn come out first, which we were fine with because we ended up looking like the most sort of like speedy reaction to a mainstream release in the history of cinema. In actual fact, we didn't find out about the remake of Dawn of the Dead until a year after we started writing Shaun, and we were pretty worried about it at first. But yeah, it was good. I thought the first 15 minutes particularly were extraordinary, but I think we were both Zack Snyder and ourselves were looking at different ideas. They're completely different sort of. It's a completely different take on the zombie. I mean, he kind of updated them for the 21st century. Obviously fed them a lot of coffee, so they're running around all over the place, and we kind of kept to the classic Romero, very slow, very ineffectual, slightly sympathetic zombies.
Right.
Which I kind of think is more interesting, just because there's more complexity there. There's more contradiction and more chance to characterize them as well, as opposed to them just being these sort of snarling Tasmanian devils. They become ex-people, and that's always a little bit more affecting, I think. Right.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how many people say that things like 28 Days are zombie movies. That's widely considered a zombie movie for some reason, but I'm telling people it's a virus. They didn't die.
No, exactly. Alex Garland, who's a friend of ours too, who wrote 28 Days Later, he never kind of meant for the film to be a zombie film. I think it does wear its reference, it wears its inspirations on its sleeve very much. It's very much a tribute to Romero's films, and also authors like John Wyndham and films like Omega Man. It's kind of it's very much in the tradition of those things, but it's not a zombie movie.
Right. Yeah. No. But for some reason, people tend to widely consider it that I've encountered, and believe it to be. Just because, and I think they might have taken that some off of that for the new Dawn of the Dead.
Philistines.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it seemed like to me. It seemed like the makers of Dawn of the Dead had kind of seen 28 Days and thought, oh, okay, let's do it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad in a way. I'm glad they did it that way, because it meant that we were one of the only films flying the slow zombie banner, and it's led to all these kind of like these hilarious debates about I mean, for me, there's you can't have a fast zombie. It immediately a fast zombie immediately negates the very meaning of the word zombie.
Right.
It's like saying, which do you prefer, hot or cold ice? There's no debate for me.
Excellent. And how did Shaun of the Dead do over in England or in Europe?
Phenomenally. We were so we were very, very lucky, and I think just from the box office, which was really good, to the DVD sales, which has been just staggering. So it's really nice to be able for it to do well on its home ground, because of all the moviegoers in the world, British people are the most suspicious and wary of British films. So because we're so used to being disappointed by our own output, so it was nice that the public got behind it and supported it in the way they did.
Right on, and it is it is already out on DVD, and that's been selling really well over there already.
Yeah, it sold I think it was only it took Star Wars to knock us off the #1 spot.
Wow.
Fair enough. Yeah, we outsold everything, Passion of Christ, and everything that was
Good
out
job.
at the time.
Does it contain any special features, extended things, bloopers?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons it sold so well, is because it does have a good hour and a half's worth of extra material on it. There's plenty of lots of behind the scenes footage. We've got sort of special effects comparisons. There's we made these special comic strip cartoons that sort of flesh out some of the questions that you might have asked about what happens. I mean, in the film, on the DVD, it tells you where Shaun went when he kind of distracted the zombies. It tells you what happened to Diane when she left the pub with the leg of her boyfriend, and it tells you how Ed got from the pub back to the shed at the end of the film. And it's all done in a really nicely done sort of comic book format. So there's absolutely tons on there for film fans and DVD fans alike.
Right on. Definitely, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be in a very wide release over here in the States right now. I think in the city I'm in, it's only in like one theater.
It's only on 607 screens, which they kind of decided to do it on a sort of small-scale word-of-mouth release, which was, I mean, obviously Focus and Rogue, who are distributing it, know how to go about their business, because they've obviously done lots before. And what was great was that despite the fact, I think we got to #4 in the top 10, even though we were only on 607 screens. And when you looked at everything else in the top 10, it was on everything was on over 1,500, and we were only on at 607, and we were still at #4, which meant that the cinemas we were on in were absolutely full, which is great,
Yeah, it is amazing. We've been pushing it as much as possible. We've had a nightclub party for it and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, they sent us the great little. Did you have any input in the promotional items? Like they sent us the little mini cricket bats.
Yeah, I think that was the American promotional items were actually better than the British ones. They came up with some nice stuff. We were able to keep an eye on it, but a lot of it was just sort of initiative from Focus, which was great.
Yeah, that stuff was great. The Winchester coasters and matchbooks and stuff went over really big. So
cool.
Yeah, people really liked it a lot. Has anybody said anything about or even thought about maybe a sequel to this or?
Well, we're just into writing the next film now, but it's not going to be a sequel to Shaun of the Dead. I think we're trying to move on and do something else. Sequels, unless you're actually intending on creating an ongoing story, sequels are always just cash-ins, really. And I think they sometimes spoil the first film in that. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is very much a kind of circular story. It's a self-contained tale, and if there was a sequel, then when you went back and watched the first one again, you'd sit there thinking, okay, this is all very well, he's getting out of this scrape, but he's going to have another one,
Right.
And it doesn't satisfactorily end when there's a sequel. So I think we kind of want to try and resist doing a sequel to Shaun of the Dead. Where else could you go? We said all we wanted to say.
Right. Good. I'm glad to hear that, actually. So what is next for you? What are you working on right now?
At the moment, we're working on a kind of a sort of police-based thing. We're looking to do something with the British action film. There's not really such a thing as the British action movie, and that's what we kind of want to do. In the same way that with Shaun of the Dead, we took what was essentially an American genre and made it very British. We want to do the same sort of thing with the sort of cop action flick. And the British policeman is a very unfashionable, uncool kind of figure, and we thought it would be quite funny to try and change that.
Trying to make the cops cool, huh?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the output of one of the most common sort of exports from the British cinema at the moment is the kind of gangster film, the sort of cool London Cockney gangsters, and it's all getting a bit, it's a bit much, and we said, well, let's be really uncool and try and make the cops cool, because that's a challenge.
Right on.
So that's what we're just researching that at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk to us for the magazine.
It's lovely to talk to you. It's great to hear you doing stuff like the party and that.